When reading, answer the stopping to think questions in your mind. They can help you find out whether you understand the main ideas. How pollution gets into water. There are several ways that pollution can enter the water supply. Surface water and groundwater can be directly contaminated from such sources as factories that dispose of their industrial wastes and broken sewer lines. Another major source of water pollution is stormwater. Stormwater is water, such as rainwater or snowmelt or hose water, that runs down rooftops and over backyards, parking lots, and pavement. As it flows, it picks up various contaminants. These might include motor oil from cars, lawn fertilizer, and pesticides. The water then washes into storm drains. Storm drains are the openings you see in the edge of roads at street corners. They feed into storm sewers, which are large underground pipes. These sewers are different from the sanitary sewers that carry household sewage away from houses. The storm sewers run the water directly into rivers, streams, or the ocean. Storm water pollution is responsible for 21% of polluted lakes and 45% of polluted estuaries. That's where the river and ocean water meet in the United States. Biological contamination. Living or once living organisms, including bacteria, viruses, and parasites, cause biological contamination. Bacterial contamination caused the cholera epidemic you investigated in the previous two activities. Dr. John Snow found that the river water used by the S&V Water Company to supply water to London residents was contaminated with human waste. The waste contained the bacteria that cause cholera. The disease spread quickly to many people who drank the water. This was the first known example of a disease caused by water, also called a waterborne disease. In the late 1880s, chemicals that contain the element chlorine were found to kill many biological contaminants. With this discovery came the use of chlorine to prevent the biological contamination of drinking water supplies. Chlorine added to towns and cities' water supplies greatly reduced waterborne diseases such as cholera. The importance of using chlorine chemicals to disinfect water was shown in January of 1991 when a cholera epidemic hit Peru and other countries in South and Central America. By November 1991, more than 300,000 people were sick with cholera and more than 3,500 had died. Officials discovered that a Chinese ship had dumped sewage into the harbor of Lima, the capital city of Peru. They determined that the sewage was contaminated with the bacteria Vibrio cholerae that caused cholera. The bacteria contaminated the fish and the shellfish in the water. When some people ate raw fish in a popular local recipe called ceviche, they got infected. The bacteria made their way through their bodies and were excreted into the sewer system. Some of the bacteria in that human waste ended up in the water supply. In other places, chlorine would have disinfected the water, but Peru's water had not been chlorinated. Since chlorine was not used, the cholera spread quickly among the people who used it. Today, more than 98% of America's municipal water supplies are treated with chlorinated chemicals. These chemicals protect people from getting waterborne diseases such as cholera. But even though chlorine treatment works very well, biological contamination can still pollute water supplies. In addition to human waste, biological contaminants can be found in the waste from animals, including farm animals and household pets. This is because all animals, humans included, have bacteria such as E. coli living naturally in their intestines. Not all types of E. coli are harmful, but some cause intestinal illness. Irrigation water or rainwater can pick up and carry animal wastes from farms and lawns. Many farms have livestock, vegetable crops, or both. If irrigation water contaminated with animal waste flows into a vegetable field, the E. coli in the waste will contaminate the crop. Because bacteria grow and reproduce very quickly, it takes just a small amount of E. coli to contaminate a lot of vegetables in a short time. People who eat the contaminated vegetables are at risk of getting very sick. Animal waste from food-producing industries, such as meatpacking plants, can also pollute water. Meatpacking companies are required to dispose of their waste carefully because it contains E. coli bacteria from the animals. If it is not handled properly, the biological contaminants in the waste could mix with storm or irrigation water outside of the plant. It could then run down through a storm sewer that leads to a river, stream, or lake, which may be many miles from the plant. Cryptosporidium and Giardia are two other types of biological contamination that cause intestinal illness. Cryptosporidium is a type of bacteria found in cattle manure along with E. coli. Cryptosporidium is a problem because it's difficult to kill with chlorine chemicals. Giardia, a tiny parasite, lives naturally in water sources such as rivers and lakes. Most people get sick from Giardia by drinking untreated water or water that has not been filtered. This is why it is recommended that you filter your water if you drink from a river or lake while hiking or camping. Stop to think. Number 1, what are the main types of biological contamination and what are their sources? Biological contamination today. Today, outbreaks of disease from biological contamination still happen. E. coli contamination is one of the biggest concerns of such U.S. government agencies as the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, and the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, because outbreaks continue to occur in the United States periodically. Newspaper articles about some recent outbreaks due to biological contamination are represented in the headlines below. From the Daily Tribune, April of 1993, intestinal illness linked to Milwaukee's water. The Metro Times from November of 1996, illness traced to fruit juice brand. From the Evening Chronicle, November of 1996, juice implicated in death of infant. The Weekly Gazette in September of 2006, killer bacteria hunted in spinach fields. Chemical contamination. Chemical substances such as fertilizers, gasoline, oil, heavy metals, and acids cause chemical contamination. They can enter water supplies from a variety of human activities. Homeowners and farmers often use fertilizers and chemicals to kill weeds and pests. These chemicals may contaminate the water supply if they mix with rainwater or irrigation water. Some fertilizers contain chemicals that can cause serious health problems and even death if they enter the drinking water supply. Water pollution caused by vehicles is a big problem. When it rains, oil, gas, and antifreeze that leak from cars are washed from driveways, roads, and parking lots into storm sewers. Gas can also spill onto the pavement from the pump hose at the gas station. To prevent this problem, many filling stations have installed special guards in the gas hose nozzles to keep gas from spilling onto the pavement. Another major type of chemical contaminant is a group of metals called heavy metals. Heavy metals include copper, lead, silver, and mercury. Heavy metals are part of the natural environment and are found in the soil. In addition to being a part of the natural environment, heavy metal wastes are produced from human activities such as manufacturing, water delivery, and mining. Chemical, iron, steel, and copper factories produce heavy metal wastes. For example, a copper pipe company that makes copper water pipes for houses and businesses produces toxic copper waste. That waste must be disposed of properly so that it does not get into the water supply outside of the plant. The copper water pipes themselves can also be a source of contaminants in the water. If the copper pipes corrode over time from a chemical reaction between the pipes and the water, copper can get into the water supply. Short periods of exposure to copper cause nausea and vomiting. Longer periods of exposure can lead to kidney and liver damage. Lead pipes were used for water service and plumbing in houses and buildings built before 1986. After people learned more about the dangers of exposure to lead in the 1980s, the EPA worked hard to enforce laws to reduce lead in the water from lead pipes. Over the past 2 centuries, the mining industry has developed various techniques to extract valuable minerals such as coal, silver, and diamonds from the earth. Many abandoned mines have materials in or around them that contain waste metals and acids left from the mining process. Rain can wash these chemical contaminants into streams and rivers. Stop to think number 2. What are some of the ways chemical contamination can get into the water supply? Contamination and the environment. Whether biological or chemical, water pollution can harm the environment, make people sick, and even threaten life. Water pollution can cause big problems quickly because water travels easily and it's hard to contain. For example, if oil gets washed down a gutter with stormwater, it runs to a storm sewer that leads to a river, stream, or lake, which can be many miles away from where the oil was spilled. The oil can harm the fish and wildlife that live in the lake, as well as people who use the lake for recreation or drinking water. Stop to think number 3. What is it about water that makes water contamination such a big concern? Since water is essential for life and needed for so many different purposes, we must keep it clean. Government agencies such as the EPA spend a lot of time and money checking water supplies. They also establish policies to keep water safe. Farms, industries, and companies now are required to follow guidelines for using water responsibly and preventing water pollution. If the water does get contaminated, however, it is important to figure out what and where the contamination is in order to clean it up as safely and quickly as possible. This requires knowledge of the properties of water, the types of water contamination, how to detect the contamination, and the technology used to clean it. You will learn about these topics throughout this unit. The analysis. Number 1. Based on the information from the reading, determine which of the contamination, biological or chemical, is present in the following scenarios.